cannot be guaranteed automatically. If there are more and more of papers, more and more of scientific and technological, unless it's attempted, focused towards that. So technical development is mostly used by industry. And therefore, no doubt that the welfare, satisfaction and happiness of the society depends a lot also on the industry. So I think answer to this are twofold. As Shoemaker has said, that we must have a new lifestyle, new methods of production. We cannot go on making cement, power, steel, paper as we are doing today in 2050. If we do that, even God cannot save us. So new methods of production, but new patterns of consumption, new patterns of energy consumption, of water consumption, of raw material consumption. Every industry must have its EPI, Environment Performance Indicator. Per unit production, what is that? And is it going down or is it going up? This is the most important thing for industry today. So then we'll have a lifestyle designed for sustainable performance. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much. I think, as usual, very, very comprehensive. And I think the last slide really carries the message very well. Not only new patterns of looking at production, but consumption as well. And that is what is driving a lot of issues. Thank you. Hopefully, there will be some interaction later. Next speaker is a friend, Chitano Ghosh, who do I give you? There's a huge two-page CV of yours in front of me. What I know of you, as what I can say, is that I've met very few people with this kind of bandwidth in environment, and I'm very happy to hear today that he's also doing some, we're associated in ITC as well, which I got to know only today. But Sutanu, once again, the floor is yours. I know that there's hardly been any chamber left in this city where you have not been doing something somewhere. Sutanu, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Nazib. And we'll hold this slide for me, Mr. Mukherjee's last slide, because I'm going to continue on. I'm going to be very brief, but I'm going to repeat that slide. A new lifestyle, new methods of production, new patterns of consumption. A lifestyle designed for sustainable performance. I'm simply going to continue on with this and give you 3 examples from my professional life in 3 totally different sectors of production, consumption, lifestyle, all of them. I'll start with mining. Mr. Mukherjee just mentioned that we have to change our production style. I think you would very much agree that mines, if you want to point at a single sector which has created the maximum environmental damage, at least in our country, and I'm sure it's going to be the same across the world, it's the mining sector. Of whatever environmental attributes, biotic, abiotic, that you can think of, mining affects everything. And precisely why? Because we have principally done open cast mining. Principally. We will have to switch to underground mining in a very major fashion to negate these impacts, because I don't have to really give you, detailed example. If you go underground, then much of the terrible adverse impacts witnessed through open cast mining can be negated. More importantly, God is not very kind all the time, although we look up to Him for guidance each and every moment. It's not very kind. What has He done, particularly in India? You would agree that most of our richest mining deposits are overlain by the richest of forests. One example, since we have worked there. The richest iron ore deposit of India is in the Bastar district in Madhya Pradesh. The richest medicinal herbs are present in Bastar district on top of this particular iron ore mine. The mine which is supposed to feed Bhilai steel plant for the next, I don't know how many decades hence. If you want to protect those medicinal herbs, and they're very rare, very, very rare. I'm not talking about endangered species, I'm talking about rare medicinal herbs, you will have to go in for underground. Before I get into thermal power, I want to just, make a point here. Many of you, the core group, you were there from the morning, and it was stated that, who said that? That hydropower is one of the cleanest energies possible. I would categorically refute that. I would certainly not buy that. In France, hydropower has been stopped many decades ago. Hydropower is not at all a clean energy. Just because it doesn't produce air pollution doesn't mean it's clean at all. What it does on land, what it does on ecology, what it does on many other components, I don't think that statement is wholly correct. Power. Again, turning to Mr. Mukherjee, he stated that today, and also Mr. Dr. Roy Choudhury, we are moving from subcritical, from PF combustion to supercritical. You saw the increase of at least 4% in thermal efficiency. Dr. Roy Choudhury mentioned about 39–40%. Even if it's not 39–40%, I think with supercritical you can at least go up to 37%. The maximum in the world, he said, it was 45%, so 37–38 is not too bad. Then we are going in for ultra supercritical. One day, hopefully, we'll move into CFBC, and maybe once the cost curves kind of, become more friendly into the IGCC systems. May not be in our lifetime, but maybe in the next generation. I asked only one question to a utility company. It's not there. That utility company is not there here. Different one. I said, let's talk even of supercritical. These advanced class machines that you are putting up, are our engineers trained to operate these machines? You know what the answer was? He wasn't alone in the room. This was the MD of a utility company here in the state. There were others as well. And he looked at me and said, I got 2 more years for retirement, so I'm really not bothered about this. And he pointed to some of the younger folks in the room and said, it's their problem. Are we training our engineers to run these advanced class machines based on supercritical technology when they're going to be set up here? Maybe NTPCs, I'm sure they are. But everybody's setting up supercritical power plants. Are we equipped to run these machines? They do not operate or run the same way. They do not have the same oscillating frequency as the PF combustion subcritical units. Now let's get into a little bit of the building side. Dr. Roy Choudhury mentioned that, regarding seeing the moon from the terrace. And he also mentioned regarding the sun and how the solar energy can be harnessed. But also he did mention that the sun is beating down really hard. Now what in this particular building infrastructure sector are we doing trying to curb this so-called microclimatic effect, or a slightly more popular term, the heat island effect? We are trying to reduce the impervious footprint and trying to increase the pervious footprint. So we're trying to, there is a regulation now of the Ministry of Environment and Forest today that your paved area, your hard paved area, can't be more than 25%. That's an environmental stipulation across the board in India. Can't be more than 25% of your ground coverage. Just close your eyes and think of Taj Bengal. Don't you think that the paved area is much more than 25% in Taj Bengal? I would think so. I haven't measured it, but I've walked in and out of the hotel like all of us have quite a few times. It's all paved. That hotel can't be built that way. In fact, my very, very close friend Nazib of many years, If we measure the paved area here in this particular hotel, I don't think with all the car parks, I don't think you'll be less than 25%. Or maybe very marginally, because you have a huge amount of paved area, both as you come into the hotel and the car parks, and the building footprint is very small. On top of that, we have to plant 20% of trees. All very good interventions, going by this, again, the last slide in front of me. But now I'll come to the paradox. And this is the reason where I think India Inc. gets defeated. The non-synchronization or the lack of interdepartmental coordination. This is a stipulation of the Environment Department. What does the Traffic Department say? You have to have so many parks, car parks. And those car parks can't be on green surface, can't be on pervious surface. The builder, the project proponent, he has to satisfy each and every law and regulation. He satisfies environment, he gets an environment clearance. He goes to this a traffic department, gets stuck because he hasn't been able to provide the car parks the way they want them to. Now comes the fire department. He says you must have an 18-meter wide road. Again, that road has to have some load carrying capacity and 36 tons per square meter, whatever it is. Or 18 tons per square meter, whatever. Again, that can't be having on a green surface. So what has happened? What does he do? What do I do as a consultant? How do I advise? He says, if you are looking at tunnel vision in the environmental side, I can't satisfy these two. So basically, there has to be a dovetailing of all these laws. And here is where, I'm sorry that there is nobody from the government, they were not even there in the morning. But, it is the responsibility of the project proponent or the, person, the industry to go and satisfy all of them where they are at loggerheads with each other. You probably can't. Hence, these are the few thoughts that I would like to leave behind with you. Of course, on the last point, it is left to us to innovate. Since the laws are not going to bend, since the interdepartmental coordination within the government aid departments, I don't think is ever going to improve. At least in India, it's going to be this way for years to come. It is for people to innovate and find solutions, find materials, find strong pervious materials which can both be soft and hard paved, so that it can take cars as well as satisfy this, to move forward and go into new lifestyles, new methods of production, new patterns of consumption, and a new lifestyle. I have innumerable other examples, but I thought I'll just take these three discrete, selective examples of sustainable development which India Inc. probably should follow in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sutana, for these specific examples. And I certainly take your point about the multidisciplinary coordination that you need. Currently, we have some 65. There's some 65 projects on the ground, and the delay is from 2 years to 8 years as a result of all this. And what is losing out, therefore, is not only the country's investment and the income that you get for livelihoods as a result of that, but look at the kind of, when you create jobless growth outside, the kind of problems that you're lining up with. But yes, these are very, very pertinent issues, and when you talk about sustainability, we need to do that. Moving on to the next speaker, Subir is the Chief Executive of VRM India, and again, an organization that I have interacted with for quite some time. There is certainly a worldwide body of knowledge there that I can see. And from the companies that you've advised, I don't see anyone left out in terms of Shell, Cairn Energy, Hardy Oil, GE, American Home, Whirlpool, Coca-Cola, Johnson, Abbott Laboratories, Tata's, and certainly a very, very distinguished career. So thank you very much for being here. And the floor is yours now.
graveyard slot. So I can, it is going to be a big challenge to follow such illustrious speakers, before me, as well as, the fact that it is the fag end of the day. A very long day at that. First, thank you very much to Bengal Chamber for having invited us here and giving us an opportunity to partner with them for this very important topic and conference. What I'm going to do is actually go back a little and talk a little more about the general concept and how businesses are responding to that of sustainable business and what it really means, and also probably share with you some statistics that came out of some of the studies that were done looking at the various what businesses are doing and how they are looking at sustainability as an integral part of what they are doing to grow their business and to make them more successful. So I know it's something that we have been talking about sustainability and sustainable business, sustainable management for a long time, and it is foolish of me to even think of trying to say what does sustainability really mean and go back to that. Everyone is familiar with the most common definition, if I can say that, of sustainable development, which has been used millions of times since it was introduced in 1987 by Gro Harlem Brundtland, which was basically talking about development today, development to meet today's need, making sure that you do not compromise the ability for the future generation to meet their needs. So this is just a paraphrasing of that. But what has happened is when you're looking at sustainability with that kind of a approach, most naysayers or detractors have been saying over the years that, and they continue to do so, that it is only the feel-good stuff, the warm and fuzzy stuff that you really need to, look at. ITC is a very exceptional company. I'll come and comment on that, in my view. And but the good thing is that we are seeing increasingly businesses are looking at sustainability and sustainability concepts as something which makes sense to their business. So what does sustainable business really mean? If I can borrow from one of the authors like Aaron Kramer, what does he say? He says sustainable business is one that delivers value for investors, customers and employees, improves the living standards of its employees and the community it touches. It makes wise use of natural resources and treats people fairly. Now if you look at all that, that is what ITC has been doing. What does it mean? It really means it's just a business that is well run. It doesn't mean something new. It doesn't mean something new, a completely new concept or something that you have to learn new things or do. It is just that you have to run your business well. Because if you're not looking at all these issues and not really taking care of them, the very existence of your business is at risk. Coming to something that we have already talked about quite a bit, business of business is of course business. What does that mean? That includes profit, making profit. So making profit and sustainability are not really at loggerheads. So and there is now enough evidence that is coming back from various studies that is being doing around the world that if you adopt sustainable practices, you actually end up adding to the bottom line and not otherwise. It is not just a cost. It's not an add-on that you have to do in order to meet some other goals of your board or your other stakeholders because you want to be a good citizen. It is not that. It is just something that is going to make more and more business sense for you in order for your business to be future-proofed, as has been mentioned earlier. So I will actually, I wanted to give you a lot of data, but I think I'll cut down again because of time. But what is India Inc. really, how is India Inc. responding to this challenge of looking at sustainability and making it central to its operations. In various forums and various discussions, we have been in this business for about 19 years now, and we actually provide services only in sustainability. And sustainability, the way we look at it encompasses all its areas like environment, health, safety, social, climate change, community, all that. Looking at that and the fact that we have been in business for 19 years and hopefully will be for some more years, obviously there is a huge demand for this service. There is a requirement for the advice that we can provide. And that is not coming from drivers that are just purely, again, as I said, on becoming good corporate citizens or something like that. That's a small part of it. The main part of it is coming from two sources. The first one, and that is what the India Inc. is telling us, is that actually the pressures that are coming from community. I think we did have some examples of that. Community pressure is driving the change in terms of how you do business, who you do business with, how you manage your supply chains, how you manage your footprint, how you manage your wider stakeholder group. That is actually driving this change in the approach to business and how we do business. The other very interesting point is that globally a survey was done on a large number of CEOs to understand how they look at sustainability. Most of the Western countries actually say consumers are driving this change in behavior. But the big difference is the Indian CEOs and the Indian and the respondents actually said it was community and it was business sustenance on other issues, availability of resources, your social license to operate. That is driving that change in you. It's not, the regulatory framework is there, but enforcement is weak, implementation is poor, interpretation is difficult, as we just heard from Shutonu, that some of these laws and regulations are actually loggerheads at each other. So you can't really meet all the requirements and still do your business or set up your project. So what is driving is our external forces, realization of those external forces becoming, as your risk for continuing business, and that is driving the change. One more report I will just cite. UN Global Compact actually undertook a global CEO survey, and a large number of Indian CEOs were also surveyed there. And what was found was 67% of the CEOs responding from India actually said sustainability was critical for their business, and sustainability issues were critical for their business, which is very different from what this survey has been done over the past 4 or 5 years, and this is the biggest change that has happened. The other thing that came out from that study was that most of the respondents said that if the government and the policy makers can provide a more enabling environment for the investments to come in, both internal and external, that will be an integral part of making or advancing sustainability for businesses all around. What we are seeing as a service provider, again, is that there is significant change that is happening. ITC is an absolute leader in this. But what we are seeing is a large number of companies, both large, medium and small, in all parts of segments of the industry, they are adopting sustainable practices. Again, looking at integrating that as a way of doing business and not really as something which is add-on and just to create a report or publish a report for public consumption. They're doing it as something that they see which will make them survive in the future, make their businesses thrive in the future. So this is a big change that we are seeing. Of course, all is not hunky-dory. There's a lot that needs to be done. Everyone is still not looking at adopting sustainable business practices. There is a lot of, Alokda mentioned greenwashing that actually still goes on. But we are hoping and we are hopeful that the change that we see is going to become more and more wide. It will be adopted by a large segment of the industry, and that is the way forward. What needs to be done is to look at longer term, look at the long term, rather than just chase, the next quarter and meet your profit targets and sales targets for the next quarter. So my last message is that business needs to change the way they look at reporting, look at performance indicators, and make them more longer term, rather than just look at next month, next quarter, next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Subir. I think your last line about the next quarter, long time back in Heathrow Airport, they used to say that while the next quarter is important, so is the next century. This was the BP line. Well, I don't know if there are any questions for the panel. I can see people are leaving. There is one. This is, as we say, the best batsman till the end. So please. Can you come again? I didn't get the question. We didn't get the question. Can you come again? Okay. So he's talking about...
Oh, sorry. I think it's a very good question, because the answer is the better is the question, more difficult it is to answer. Anyway, it is true that the population pressure will increase of population always will put a tremendous pressure on the sustainability. Because you need more energy, you need more water, you need more everything which you really cannot produce sustainably. Therefore, it is always a problem. But, however, if we can plan it right, if we can, as I said, bring down the consumption level, if we are X kilowatt per person, if we can get a better quality of life, even with X+1, that would be possible to do even with a larger population. So my one sentence answer would be that yes, it does put a pressure on sustainability, but it is definitely possible to tackle that for mankind.
Panelists, and hand it over back to...
May I request Mr. Arif to present the memento on behalf of Bengal Chamber of Commerce to Mr. Mukherjee.